Cold Rice Media presents What's Good. It's our first episode, so we're here. This is the crew, so we're gonna do a quick intro. And as the first episode, we're probably just gonna fumble a lot of stuff here. So we'll see what we come up with. My name is Raymond Acosta. Peace. Up top is
Yo, my
G,
name is G. How you guys doing?
Yeah,
and over
my
there.
name's E. How you guys doing?
So yeah, this is gonna be the crew that's gonna be basically presenting to you what we come up with throughout the whole season. It's we had some conversation around this before individually, and this is actually the first time we've been on an episode before. We did a couple of trial episodes. Well, one I had an off screen with E, and he came at me pretty heavy, and I was like, man, I need to get him on the pod, mainly because he was already. I think E, you were talking about you wanted to do something already on your end, and I actually wanted to do a feature on you because I was like, man, I need. There's a lot of people that along the way, and that's one of the main reasons for the podcast. Since I'm now in Texas, we're all basically originally based in Seattle, and I moved over here, and I kind of lost touch. But at the same time, I've been here for about a year, never really caught that level of conversation around here that I had with the group down there, and there's much more. So we're gonna be bringing some people in. But one of the main people, one of the first people that I was thinking about driving around, I was like, man, I gotta talk to E because I was on Instagram. I had seen all the stuff that that you were involved in, and I never really took a step back on how involved you were out there. So I was like, man, I need to get him on the show. I hit him up, and he's talking about you wanted to do a podcast already. So tell me about what you were gonna do before.
So pretty much the same thing, man. Like whatever topic that hit my mind or whatever was current at the moment, especially during COVID, it was like really tough, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, man, what the hell am I gonna do? So I was like digging and digging for something to catch my interest, and like some of the shit that caught my interest was kind of crazy, like
Hmm.
conspiracy wise
Hmm.
and shit like that.
Hmm.
So I wanted to bring out like certain topics around that. But this shit could get really sensitive, depending who your audience is and who's listening. So I was like, had to really think about it if I really want to push that kind of podcast. But mainly it would be like on a creative tip, how people
Yeah.
involved who would love to be creative, you know what I'm saying? Because everything you do, you have to put in your own style and creativity, right? It could be like dance, music, even sports, like the greatest hoopers out there like Kobe and how he's
Hmm.
on the court.
Hmm.
Shows
Glad you
all
said that.
kinds. Yep. Rest in peace, Kobe. You know what I'm saying? But like he was super creative out there. He get himself in any jam and look filthy while doing it. But then just to have like special, people that we know around the way who we grew up with and just like have a little sit down with us, like interview them, like, hey man, what makes you creative?
Definitely,
But yeah.
definitely. And that was one of my main things. And and the hard thing about the podcasting, right? And I think you've also had this in mind, was that how do you even start? What's going to be your niche? And how and just like I think you and I had mentioned, we just got to press play on this whole thing and see where it goes. I hesitated quite a bit just because, well, on my end here, I was trying to find somebody to hop on with me because I keep thinking in my head, I was like, who's going to want to watch this thing with my mug on there? If I do it myself, I got to be super entertaining. I got to bounce ideas to myself and maybe pause a few things. So I was already thinking a few things fell through over here just because I just couldn't connect properly. And so I hit up this dude up here because I was like, man, this is he's the one. He's the one that I can just. I mean, if for those who don't know, and I know a lot of the homies gonna end up, hopping up on here, and there's gonna be many, hopefully many new subscribers and listeners on this. This group right here is just fellas that I grew up with back in Seattle, and especially with Gerald up top. He was one of the little brothers back then because I am a little bit older than him, but then he was always one that I grew up with together. So he's definitely an equal to me. And I hit him up and I was like, let's see what he's got going on. And I know he's got his trials and tribulations with fatherhoods and the joys and the pains. And I wanted to share that with him. How you feel about being on here, Jay?
I'm excited. I've always thought about doing it, but not until you hit me up and show me what you're working with. And I just, at the end of the day, I just feel like it's a lot of practice. It's just like breakdancing, right?
Oh
We
yeah,
didn't get, we didn't learn windmill in one day. So I just feel like as long as we continue to keep doing this and seeing what comes out of it, I don't know.
yeah. Well, real quick here before we move forward, I'm glad you brought up breakdancers because one of the boys that back in the day that I grew up with, as far as breakdancing and everything too, was the homeboy Jeff, and he's actually the one I'm bringing it up because he's one of the ones that I initially had thought about when doing this podcast, because I started putting on working with some beats and the intros and everything, and I know that he was pretty. He's been pretty much working on beats, and he's been in there for a while in the scene. And I think he had mentioned he dropped off a little bit, and I wanted to help him get back on. So he commissioned the initial cut with us here. So I want to make sure that we give him his flowers here. Um, if you're on his Instagram, if you manage to go visit it, it's a lot of funky stuff. It's a lot of funky music. Let me actually bring up that initial beat that he had made here.
Yep, run it.
Which one is it? This one. This is the one just right off the top. And if you do use his music, because I've seen some people actually use his music as background, they don't give him his props. So make sure you give him his props. At least put it on your page and everything like that. I mean, it's funky, so you might as well give him his love. Give you a little second of that. But we were talking a little bit earlier on the show, and it is, we scheduled this for today as our first episode, and I didn't even notice it's definitely 9/11. I mean, it's been 9/11 all day, and it's in the evening here on this time, so I think it's only proper that we reflect. And I'm just like everybody else, we all remember where we're at. So I mean, I'd like to make just a quick round table. What do you remember? You said you were probably sleeping.
Yeah, well, it was like 2001, so it was like a year after high school. I didn't have nothing to do, so I was sleeping.
And like 6 in the morning, I think.
Yeah,
it came in pretty early, and then someone woke me up. He's like, "Did you see that?" He's like, "Turn on the TV." So I turned around, and like back in the day, my cable wasn't that good, so it was kind of fuzzy. And I'm just waking up, and I'm just like, "What the fuck was that? Is it a fucking movie?" You know what I'm saying? So I was tripping. He's like, "Nah, a fucking plane flew into the fucking building." I was like, "What building?" He's like, "Man, turn it on, just watch." And it's like crazy. And then I remember like that whole day was like quiet, like no more planes were in the air, just everything was grounded. It's kind of eerie, you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, man, that's all.
Definitely eerie, man.
Yeah.
Although like everything was a blur around that time, but it was really tunnel vision at that point. It was just a blur. You knew exactly what happened. Then it was a blur. Then it was tunnel vision, and everybody's just focused on one thing. It's like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
And everybody saw the next plane. I think everyone saw that.
I was driving when that shit happened.
On the second one?
I was on the road. Yeah. And I was listening to the radio. I think it might have been even Cube. It was broadcasting it. Man. And I was just like, what? A second plane hit the building? And I was like, damn. And after that, I didn't even know what to think. This shit was just hella crazy.
What were you doing, G?
I remember it clearly because it was the year that I turned 21. So I went out the night before.
Oh, wow.
And all I could hear, probably like 6 in the morning, right? 5:45, I could just hear my dad go, boy. I'm like, why is my dad calling me? So I lived in a house where I could like look down the banister. I look down the banister and I see the TV and I could see one of the buildings burning. I'm thinking, is this guy watching a movie? And all my dad goes, boy, you're going to war.
Oh,
what the fuck is that about? He said terrorists hit the Twin Towers. So I came down and I sat with my dad and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this is like a movie. And the next thing you know, the second one comes in.
Second one. Yeah.
That was like
the second one hit.
Was crazy.
Yeah,
that changed after that day.
Yeah, and a lot of mindsets changed since.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I was working in Redmond. So Redmond is about 15-20 minutes from Seattle, right?
Yeah.
And I was working for a paint a paint front over there. This is basically I was delivering paint for Rada. It's this little paint company, and I was sitting here mixing paint, and the manager goes, "Hey, they just hit the Twin Towers," and everybody just kind of huddled around. Even the customers were
Like
huddled
what?
around, and I just was like, "Okay, dang, that's messed up." And then I kept on working, and before I know it, second one hit, and the manager goes, "Oh, we're closing up. Go home." And I'm like, "Well, I got to deliver all this stuff." I'm like in the middle. It's like, "Don't even worry about it. We don't even know if there's gonna be tomorrow." That's what she told me. We don't know if it's gonna be tomorrow.
Damn.
Crazy.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. You serious?" I think I was
Yeah.
what 23, 24, like and driving on I-5 on 405, quiet. It was just
Wow.
no traffic, nothing. Everybody's just I couldn't believe it. And then that was it. Everything was a blur at that point.
Yeah. Everything changed after that. Like even the way of traveling just got.
Sucks. I remember going to the airport to take friends to go on their trip. You know what I mean? Like send them off in the airport. But now, only people flying can go now.
Yeah. Do you guys remember how long the kind of just the emotional recovery as a whole, I mean, locally and as a whole, it was because I think locally we were kind of like, yo, what's gonna happen? Everybody just
We were
kind
in
of got
shock too.
what's gonna happen. But was it us locally? Was it like months till we we were mentally recovered from that, or did media actually dictate how long we actually recovered from that?
I think,
Did they
yeah.
just keep poking at us?
I think the media did poke at us. Because I feel
Yep.
like when after the year and they had like their little memorial, the
Mhm.
1 year celebration and stuff, or whatever, the 1 year memorial, not celebration, but I feel like it just lingered on until that day. Or
Yeah.
maybe actually not until they put up those lights. You know how they have their
Ground zero.
Yeah,
ground
Ground
zero?
Zero,
Yeah.
those Eternal Lights,
Mm-hmm.
it's called. But yeah,
Honestly, I don't know if people even really truly recovered off that. You know what I'm saying? Because people want answers that they can't even get. You know what I'm saying? So they're just that part of it, the whole 9/11 thing. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like who, what, and why did that even happen? What was the,
Well, the emotion shifted. It
yeah,
was at first it was fear, and then to anger. Everybody was about it. They were
A
down.
lot of
Cats
people
just
signed
started
up.
picking up guns. They were like, "Let's go."
They
But
started signing
then
up.
that's right.
we didn't know who we were supposed to be fighting because one thing all of a sudden it was the whole Bin Laden thing, and then all of a sudden why we got Hussein. Like, what do they got to do with this? Because and then questions arose, and then that's when all the theories came out. And so it's definitely not the same story as what it was back then, but it's still something that we gotta. I mean, we still got to look back on how we felt during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's not to bring the first episode heavy, but every time I'm looking at the clock on my laptop here, or the date on my laptop, it just puts things in perspective. That is what 22 years ago. That's like a human being. That's an
Adults,
adult
yep,
lifetime ago.
yeah.
So
I turned like
here we are.
turning 21 twice.
Yeah.
Sheesh,
Imagine podcasting back then. Just the fear.
man.
I mean,
Just
it wasn't even a thing back then. I don't even know when
nah.
the first podcasting happened.
We were just listening to mainstream radio. One person talking.
2001.
That was '01, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was like right after Y2K. It was like
Yeah.
the
Right.
year after Y2K. Here comes the planes.
For real.
There's so much, man. There was a lot of control back then as far as like how you're supposed to be feeling. It's like, okay, y'all better do this set your clocks back right.
Did you hear?
Or
You
else
guys,
the world can end.
you guys probably heard a bunch of conspiracy theories, right, about the buildings
This is
going
what the
down.
show is gonna be about. 120%. Okay. We're gonna slow it down a little bit though, G, because you gotta control you gotta temper your excitement right now. Because I don't
I
think you're
just
ready.
heard one thing that you guys probably heard of too.
I've just-
The day before.
oh, the
Did
the
you?
trillion dollars missing from the
Yeah.
Pentagon.
Yeah.
When
That's
Rumsfeld went up there and was like, "There's $1 trillion missing from the Pentagon," and then guess what happens the next day? Oops,
yeah.
an
It went down,
invisible
but
plane it hit the Pentagon.
can't we still just ask that question? What happened to the trillions?
Nah.
We can keep asking. A
Everything
lot
went
of the,
down in the building. Is that
a
what
lot of the
happened?
conversations, I mean, it's
I
It's
have
one of
zero notes for that.
but
Nothing from me.
he was ready.
Nothing.
He got notes on Maui fires. He he got notes on Obama. You know the new revelations of Obama's.
Yeah,
Man,
no way.
Good
it's been
God,
22 years. You don't need
nah.
notes for this shit.
That's
God
the thing.
damn.
Okay,
Barely remember 22 years ago, bro.
so I think so. I started kind of just podcasting during COVID, and that was.
Mhm.
I mean, nobody knew what they were doing. I mean, people were out of jobs. I was one of the lucky ones. I mean, I worked for healthcare, so I was working from home, remote, and everything, and I felt safe. But I had people around me just like I got nothing to do. I'm getting laid off. I'm not one of the what do they call them? The not, if you're a frontliner, you were essentials. I think you were the essentials.
Essential
Yeah,
workers. Yeah.
essential workers. But a lot of people fell off, and I don't know. Were you having a hard time? Were you guys having a hard time during that time?
I
No, you
don't
were all
know,
right, right?
man. I was okay. I was getting that unemployment money, that extra 2 G's. I was like,
That
damn,
was
dog, that shit was a lifesaver. Basically, just sitting
See,
home collecting unemployment. You know what I'm saying? But it was enough. It was like 5 G's a month, and that was enough for me.
that's nuts.
You know what I'm
nuts.
saying?
See, I had the other route. My job kept me because I was the facilities. They
Mm,
sent everyone to work from home, but I just coming in and doing like little shit. But still, like, look how much he made off of unemployment
hmm
at that
hmm
time
Yeah.
versus me making regular. I was not making that much.
You could have stayed your ass home.
Exactly. My
Made me
wife was
think.
like, my wife was telling me, man, they should have just laid you off.
Made me think. No, it was a thought, but yeah, I mean, I just see. But yeah, it's such rough times, and that's when it was podcast time. And during that time, it was ideal mainly because there was a separation. There is all of a sudden this separation in thought and what people believe, and all of a sudden, you were if you were believing one thing, you were considered crazy, and if you were believing the other, you were considered sheep. And at the same time, it was split into where you had to support particular causes, but that
Yep.
cause was tied to something else. So now, if you're not supporting this cause and that
Right.
additional tied on cause, then you are this guy. You're despicable or what? Deplorable or something like that. I'm like, man, I started getting crazy, and it was ideal to sit there on the mic and just hash it out with some people that are feeling the same way because we were at
That would
home, we
have.
were cooped up.
I wish you talked to me back then. There's a lot I would have said.
I'm sure. I'm
I,
sure.
I like I said, like you guys were both working from home. I was going into the office. I was driving. The dope part about it was when I would drive to work and drive home. It really in Seattle. It really felt like the early '90s because, like during 2020, it was like sunny. Nobody would be on the no traffic. People would be outside walking around in front of their houses. It really felt like the late '90s. I was like, man, this is how it used to feel like. But then, I mean, that's just a lot less people being around.
Like, what's it feel like right now? Because I haven't been there for. I mean, I haven't. I was there over the summer, but I wasn't there. I could tell you what the main difference is as far as just the feeling after living over here when I went back there. But I want you guys to being there and seeing it daily. Do you really? Has there been really much of a change from the past couple of years?
Traffic, more traffic.
Yeah,
Just
it's heavy on the traffic over here. It's retarded.
What it isn't?
feels
Was it why?
feels
Like
like a
what?
lot
It's
more
not because
people.
there's
I
more
don't.
people.
I think
Is
there's
there?
because there's more people. Yeah. I feel like Seattle has been growing ever since the pandemic, ended. People were just moving up here and stuff like that. But I also feel like it's another reason too. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a change of scenery. Seattle kind of
Mm.
has it all. But then you got the other side of it, like
I
the homeless shit that they don't see. You know what I'm saying? And that right there is the biggest change I think what happened in Seattle is the housing issue that we're having.
Yeah. How's
Man,
that
it's
homeless problem treating you?
that homeless
Camps.
problem, man. It could get really tricky out here with that, you know what I'm saying? Because those people got mental health issues, you know what I'm saying? They don't know what reality is, you know what I'm saying? They over here beating people up sometimes for nonsense shit just because you're out of it completely, you know what I'm saying? That's what I fear for the most because, my
Yeah.
mom takes the bus
Yeah.
and you know, that's always in the back of my mind. It's like, dude, what if someone just hits you with a hammer? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I've seen it happen on social media plenty of times in California, you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
in the LA area, which I could tell is already hella bad, you know. That's LA. Shit, now
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
happening here in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? So that just has to let you know how many people are kind of like moving into our city, you know what I'm saying? Like population wise.
Well, that was the problem. What that was one of the reasons why I ended up getting out of there, just because. Oh, so I lived. You know, if you guys know, I lived in Kent, which is for those who don't know what's going on with Seattle and where that is in relative to Seattle. It's about 15, 20 miles, about 10 to 15 miles south of Seattle, and it's about 2 or 3 miles south of Renton. Basically, you're bordering Renton at that point. And from what I experienced is after COVID was going on, because during the riots and everything, they took over downtown. I mean, you had homeless, you had the anarchists, you had people. I felt like they were busting them in, and while they were all taking over downtown because the businesses were shut down. And this is
Yep.
just me sitting at all the way in Kent making wild guesses, because there really wasn't a lot of communications or transparency about what really was going on in downtown, other than it was closed down. So they basically took over, put the tents up, and then
Hmm.
once the big businesses in the city decided to, was like, you know what, summer of love, it's time to push out a lot of people. Then they need to get out. They needed to get them out of the city themselves, and they start busting them out. And
Hmm.
then they were in my hood, Kent. So you got these, and that's also around the time when fentanyl just started hitting the streets, and it was coming
Mhm.
down from Canada, coming up from Cali, coming up from the border. Fentanyl hits the streets, and before you know it, in Kent, you wake up with the catalytic converters gone.
Yep.
Oh
People,
yeah. Oh
you got
shit.
people. Street lights are off because they're taking the coppers down just to get a quick buck. You know, Home Depot's going
Shit.
out of business, and then you look on Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp, you got a bunch of power tools there, brand new, $20. And so that was the hood. And so it was over. It was at that point. It was and it also pushed out a lot of the multifamily homes into the single family homes, predominantly single family homes in the outskirts. And you had a neighborhood that would mainly have maybe like a single family home all around you, and that was my neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you got a multifamily home here, more cars, multifamily home here, family home here, rental here. Then you got a bunch of cars on the road, and it's not the picket fence anymore.
Hmm.
Nah.
Yeah. So so why did you move? Like, why'd you get out of your area, E? Because
Yeah.
you're right there by the hospital. You
Yeah.
still by there?
Yep. Yep. I'm still right here down here in Renton now. So yeah. So I moved out of what? The south end of Beacon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with my brother at first in the west side. And then naturally it just happened moving out to Kent for no reason. I was like, man, what's out here in Kent? I didn't want to be out here. I want to stay back in Seattle. But I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I got, growing up there, I'm just so used to everything. Like it didn't really bother me, but it wasn't as bad. You know what I'm saying? It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't bad when I moved out. I just moved
On
out
the
because
hill.
like it was getting cheap. You know, like Kent area was cheap, Renton was cheap. And so like I ended up here in Renton, which is not bad, you know what I'm saying? Right there by the hospital, got everything around. But you do
Mhm,
notice that from day to day, the housing issue is getting pushed out from the city. Or it's
mhm.
either that, it's not getting pushed out, it's either growing, you know what I'm saying? So it's spreading out for sure.
Yeah, your area. I remember before we left, your area was it's definitely getting thick up that
Mm-hmm.
hill.
But
One
yeah,
thing
that's
you
what I'm
can
saying.
do is you pack up your bags, drive about 3 days south, and here we are.
I know, man. I was thinking about it too, man. Since my mom's about to retire, she just asked me the other day. She's like, "Hey, can I live with you if I after I retire?" I was like, "Man, yeah, my house not big enough though, but we're gonna have to get a bigger house. Move this shit out of like down south."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not talking Tacoma either.
Some Beverly Hillbillies got some
Hey,
California gold, Texas tea.
man. For real.
No, I couldn't do it anymore. It's just it kept needling at me. You know, you waking up, and I got just like y'all, man. I got boys. That's all I got. And I think you got are boys too, right? Yeah,
Yep.
no
Mhm.
girls. And that's all. And I didn't want that as a like. I didn't want to normalize it because I know the difference. I mean, we all grew up from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
96, 97, watching your backs, just literally watching your backs, and you can get popped or just stomped on as a child like a 12, 13 year old, and then we went through all that just so we can all of a sudden start watching our backs and our kids' backs again. And I just didn't want that next cycle to be normal. And for my kids, I've got like I've got a 19-year-old now that doesn't even know. He can't even relate. It's the furthest thing from his mind to when I tell him stories about what I went through. And it's just like you can't even comprehend it. And I
We
didn't
got
want
through
that
that.
normalized anymore. So I was just like, we out of here. And I got like a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old that's not going to be something that's normal to them. And I'm not saying the grass is greener, but that's not a problem here. That's not even a conversation. And they dig it. They can understand. It's like, I understand why we're here. And it's such a breath of fresh air. But it's the hardest thing, obviously, that I've done. It's just because of, just the family, the roots are there. I was there like for 40 years.
Yeah.
But I am not regretting it at all. Not even a little bit. People ask me, it's
Yes.
like, do you miss Seattle? It's like I miss people, but I don't miss that anymore.
Yeah, I could dig that.
I like to say that all the time. Like Seattle's not Seattle because we're not, we're not, we're not us.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because it was us kicking it, rolling around the city. No one does that anymore.
Yeah. They do, but it ain't it's not the same. It's just
20
a
car
different
deep,
vibe. It's a
every car
different vibe.
full.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Come on, man. They don't do that no more. They don't need to. They got internet. They
No,
just
they can
follow
just
one
Uber.
person. They
I
follow one
mean,
person to the club.
we also don't know that because we don't be out there with the 17, 18-year-olds, you know what I'm saying? I bet they are doing it. They're probably doing it even more crazier because right now, like the crime rate of these teenagers robbing cats around the South End is going up. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing. You know what I'm saying? These youngsters out here with straps and they're just robbing people now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad I'm not in the South End. That's the only reason why I don't think I've ever want to go back to Seattle. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be targeted because I'll be walking around with my necklace out, with my rings on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Don't be following me home. Still, I don't want
I'm
that. You
thinking
know what I'm
they're
saying?
targeting older people.
Yeah.
Like,
Just the easy
yeah,
work. But they're,
you
I
know what I
mean, they're
mean?
not picky at the same time. I mean, if
No,
you got
yeah.
what they want,
If
they're
they're
not.
hungry, they're hungry. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And it's that specific social. I mean, at the social class in at least South Seattle, just around that. I don't even know if you're talking about just that RB area. It's, I mean, the social class itself has kind of cycled around
It's
there.
it's
Back then, it was
crazy.
what just it was Asians. It was like Southeast Asians down in that area, and I think we were
Mhm.
also hanging out with a bunch of Samoans down there also. So that was the class.
Ethiopians.
Not a lot of Ethiopians. I mean, not even a
Not
lot of
yet.
Mexicans during
Yeah,
that
not
time.
yet. Not yet.
Because I was
I
like,
want.
when I was
I
around that
would
area,
say none of them were the gangster Ethiopians yet.
no, they weren't. No,
They were just around. Like, yeah,
I didn't. Real
I
talk, I never
remember.
even seen any. It was Southeast Asians, Samoans, and I mean a lot of the Mexicans were in downtown and in the West Side, but South Seattle, that's all I really knew. It was predominantly that. But then now the social class around there, I don't know anymore. Last time I was over there, it was just Ethiopians, Eritreans. Um, who else is down there now?
I don't know.
What's the
There's a
social
little
class
bit.
in that
There's
area?
parts of the South that are kind of gentrified a little bit.
Yeah.
I think a little bit of Beacon, but it still kind of go down up there. But I think it's more like you said, like the beach area. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that side of the town. That's
To me, it was crazy. Like on Rainier and Columbia City, seeing white people walk around. I used to be like, man, I would not walk
oh
around here
yeah,
at night.
Columbia City definitely different.
That was the flip. That was I remember,
That's
and
a
I was still
flip.
there. That was
Hmm.
that one. I forget what year it was, and we hadn't been there for a minute. And then I drove up there, and I was like, "What are these people doing? Do they not know they're in danger?
Right.
Why why is there a
Uh,
tutabella here? It's a
yeah,
Neapolitan pizza. What the hell
yeah.
is this doing in Columbia City?
Pagliacci's? What?
I can get breakfast here."
Yeah.
So yeah, they turned that up, and it is. You're right. You're right. I mean, it's Rainier around Columbia City. That's a good spot now.
It's a
But you
trip.
can only wait. So I did it. So the last time I heard, there was a developer that was just waiting for that area across. That that low income housing right across the street from Rainier Beach, where that big, that one big supermarket that keeps changing their name every other year.
Yeah, there's someone trying to get
Yeah.
that.
Towards the water. There's that one spot right across the street from Rainier
Yep.
Beach. There's a little hood area there, right? Or
It's
sorry
still
if you live there, but it's low income housing. You
it's
know where
still
you
low
are.
income.
They were
Yeah.
trying to buy that whole area out, mow it down, and put up kind of like beachside kind of resort style. And then they were
Shut
going to
up.
tear down RB and move it up,
Hmm.
move it somewhere else. So they'll have that whole area kind of just as a
That would
pier
be
style.
crazy.
But you
That
gotta
would
think
be
about it though. Like if that place was cleaned up and they did put that out there, that'll raise the value up and it'll look a lot better for the town. You know what I'm saying?
that
Yeah.
That's
that'd be
not
a
a bad idea. But
that'd be
It
a
was
ghetto
very,
ass beach.
they'll clear it up, bro.
oh,
They'll
those
kick
children
those
be
ducks out.
cleared out.
They will kick those ducks out, feed
Yeah.
them a
You're right.
bunch of what was that? What was that stuff that we used to feed them back then?
But
But I didn't do it. Gerald did.
it is still too close
No,
to
I've
like
never done that.
It
it's
was
still
Gerald.
too close to
I
the
learned it
hood
from
area
him.
though.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't turn. You think it's too close to the hood area? Look what happened to Columbia.
It's on
Yeah.
MLK.
They took the hood out and
Yeah, you're
No,
right.
they still moved them out though. They could do it.
If they did
they'll
it,
move
they would
them
have
out.
started. They would have went through the line on Rainier,
I mean, not to
bought
be
all those
insensitive,
businesses.
right?
Yeah,
You're right.
I
You're
think
right.
I think it's a little bit. I mean,
Not
I would imagine it's still on the table. I don't even know.
for
You guys
sure.
can tell me better.
No, well, yeah, well, not moving the school because they're already building the school. I saw
Yeah,
it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Rainier Beach is getting a facelift.
But I mean, that plan could
What did
still
they
because
really?
that's a lot of land. That's a lot of land, right over there behind us. Take out the store and take all that land. That's a lot of land.
You think about it now, man. Rainier Beach has been there for so long, and it's like one of the last public schools I think to get remodeled. You know, every other school. Look at what happened in
Yeah,
Cleveland. Cleveland,
yeah,
we went to
Pineapple.
Cleveland, right? So Cleveland, we already know was kind of ghetto when I went there from like '96 to 2000.
That
They're
shit
like
was
we're a
hmm
bunch
falling
of floors in the
apart.
wall. There was that dirty ass fountain. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And we just,
The
I just
Piston
couldn't.
Fountain.
I couldn't even stay in class in that school. I was just like, man, fuck this place.
There was there were like vines as walls in that place, and it
Man, that
was.
Yeah,
shit was
But
weak.
I'll tell you this about Cleveland. When I transferred there from Franklin, and that was towards the kind of the upsurge of gang violence during that time.
Oh,
When
that
I
was
went there,
sure.
when you
it
left
was
Franklin to Cleveland. I was
yeah,
heartbroken.
Franklin to Cleveland, and it was during that time
I was
we did we
heartbroken.
did we did that transfer up. We transferred up. But no, but Cleveland during back in the days, if you came on their property, just the school's property, didn't really matter. Didn't matter what set you were from. It was the school. The school kind of just
You're
stood
right.
their
Yeah, it was always
stood
that.
Cleveland
their ground.
was
It was
hella
weird.
peace. Cleveland
Yeah,
was
it was
peace
weird.
as fuck. Yeah.
That was the odd part. Nothing really went down unless it was internally, and they always had the race wars in there back. But then it was at the next day, the faculty, which they did respect, actually held it down. So big shots to Cleveland. They held their own, and now look, they got the. I mean, I went there not too long ago, and I was like, God, they got the big old track, and when they got
Mhm.
windows that actually you can see out of. This is
Right.
crazy. No more vines.
They got
No more
heaters that work.
vines, no more gates. That was crazy.
Mhm.
I know they had one heater that was right there, like right when you walked in the door. There was like 4 or 5 kids. I was one of them 4 or 5 kids too. Every morning, warming up my hands. I was like, oh man, this school is so ghetto, dog. I just didn't want to be there. I was like, man, why my
I didn't
mom
even
put
go
me
to
here,
class.
dog?
I was just in the back of the gym. It was one of those things where we were at the top of the
I
gym,
remember.
and you would hear the stairs. You could hear somebody coming up the stairs. All you hear is this. That was them packing their cigarettes for the morning.
Yeah,
Everybody
But
sipping their luckies. That was just.
my
And if you
that's
hear,
right. That's right.
there's like
That's
two
so
people walking
funny.
packing their cigarettes. I was like, oh, we're gonna be smoking today.
No.
A lot of cats came out of that all right though.
Yeah,
Although,
I
like,
came out of there all right. Shit.
a lot of cats came out all right.
But I
You know,
did leave though, and I graduated at Franklin. So let's just get that
oh, you did the
out
reverse.
there.
yeah,
You did the
better
reverse.
choice.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
needed a heater, Raymond.
Nah, I just needed to graduate high school.
Get out of there.
There was no way I was gonna do that at Cleveland at all. I was like, man, this school is trash, bro. I'm out of here. God. But no, but on a good note though, I did meet a lot of down ass people from that school though. You know what I'm saying? Like people that I still hang out with to this very day. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I built some pretty cool relationships there at Cleveland.
That's Seattle though.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that that's the roots. 40 me being there 40 years, that's the roots I always recall back to. I'm definitely planting and growing roots here. There's some really good people here that I can find future with and everything like that, and eventually will. But then it's hard to not look back and in social media and like I almost hate going on Facebook, mainly just because that's when you get your bad news. That's when you get your bad
Yeah.
news. You're just like, oh dang, or you'll get a text and it's like, oh my god, I haven't heard from him for a while. I don't even want to open this thing.
Yeah.
But that's where the heart is, and I'm
Just
hoping for the best.
just remember, man. This is what I remember when I first moved away. Was whenever I came back to Seattle, it was the same shit.
Yeah, I felt
Everyone's
claustrophobic.
everyone's here. They're working. Nobody, it's
Do you guys? What's how old is your oldest? G
12,
12. Yeah, you're not even
12
there
and
yet.
8.
And then so I've got a 19-year-old. How old's your oldest? D
If you count Isaiah, he's 19.
Isaiah.
Yeah, he's
He's
19
19 now
years old
too.
now. Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm parenting properly, if I'm even putting enough pressure, if I'm not. Just because every time I put pressure, they prove me wrong because I was tripping to begin with. Because they're already doing fine. I'm sitting here like, you better get this thing done. I was like, don't worry about it. And they bring in the grades and it's done.
Yeah,
Because I'm only
Xavier's.
parenting based on how I was back then,
You
expecting
don't. You don't
him
need
to
to,
jump out the
Raymond.
window.
You don't need to. Yeah, you don't need to, Raymond.
I
You
was
don't
like,
need to. We could
I
be
thought you was
lax,
gonna be
and
smart, Dad. Are you not smart? Like what? Everything that you got in your hand, you got an iPad, and you're still failing class, bro. Come on, man.
Now this guy
That
is
shit gets annoying, bro. You know what I'm saying? Oh
I'm
my
saying
god.
he's got two monitors. He's got a TV that he's a mirror casting his phone, and he's got a mic, and he's got Discord, he's got a chat group, he's got Twitch here, he's got like a Korean drama on TV. I'm like, man, you don't even need to go out.
mm-mm. That's
And he's
gonna be
got a
my
little
kid.
girlfriend that he's having a long distance relationship right now with, and she's right here, she's asleep. And I'm like, dang, I used to have a pager and a wire and a phone that I had to put the cord underneath
The
the door.
blanket? Oh yeah. Yep. To get the cord
the
through. Yep. I had to
the
sneak that in from
longest
the
cord
living
on the
room.
block.
Yeah,
I,
man.
I, I
That's how
used to
long ago
sleep.
I
I used to
was.
sleep under the dinner table because the phone was in the kitchen. I'm like, fuck it.
That's weak.
Talk to a girl all night long.
Imagine the little girls. Imagine the little girls back then, like
Come on,
3 o'clock in the morning, with their super long phone cords going. Biggity, what's up,
Yeah.
This is
man.
just in the corner, hella
Yeah.
super quiet on the G line.
The G line. Hey, that shit was popping though.
It was. It was. There's like, what would you compare that to right now? I mean, there's nothing.
I'm nothing. This is
There's
like
nothing.
a roll of
Oh,
a dice,
I
a
know,
good voice. You know what
I
I'm
know. What
saying?
you could compare it to fucking what's the swipe one?
Oh, Tinder or whatever.
Tinder, because you
Oh
you
man,
gotta
Nah, you're way off on
because
that.
because remember
that
if
was
you pick someone, they'll ring on them.
Nah,
Right?
but
That's
you
like
got a picture.
matching.
You got a picture. You got to
No,
base
but
everything
I
off
mean,
everybody's voice.
obviously, we're talking about similar to what we got now. Obviously, there's no
Oh,
picture.
major
But I'm
upgrades.
just
Yeah.
saying, is when you pick someone on G line, it'll give them a ring, and when you swipe, if you match, you match.
that
You
was
know what I'm
so
saying?
fun back then, man. You
It
would sit there and
was.
hit up some girl and be like, "Yep, I'm about to talk to this girl, man." And then she hops on, and finally she accepts the one on. You're being connected to. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, "What's up, bro?"
Oh man! Oh come on, dude! Like, get
It's like
off!
one of the homies messing with you.
I know. It's always it's somebody
It was
that you
the
know
worst.
too. Is like, oh man, there goes what's his name?
It
He's
was
on
the
here again.
worst.
Get his ass. Get him.
Or they're there with like a fake ass name, and it's one of the homegirls. I'm like, "Oh man."
Oh no, trying to get you.
Now, because we
I do
would come from the
remember.
club, right? It was like 2 or 3 o'clock. No,
Oh,
we wouldn't come from the club. It was from Jack in the Box, and we would come home, be like, "All right, I'll hit you guys up on the G. What's your name
all
tonight?
of us.
I'm gonna be
All of us.
Chad."
Chad, not
Remember,
Chad.
it was
But not like
live.
nowadays. Who do you? These guys don't even know how. I don't even know. I
No,
don't
they
even.
don't know nothing. They don't know jack
I don't even know.
shit. If it has to be like, oh, there's that girl right there. Won't you go approach her? He's like, nah, it's okay. I'll get her Insta. I was like, what?
Yeah,
How you gonna do
it's
that? You know what I'm
crazy.
saying? Without no engagement. You just gonna find her and be like, oh,
It's
you're
just
in the
yeah,
same
catch them on
location?
the Insta, You can just sit there. You don't even need any Rizz. I mean, I don't even know if I'm using that word right.
I don't even know what that is.
We got to talk about. We also got to talk about. I was thinking of the other day. It's like, man, they got these new slangs. I don't know if I would use them back then, and I kind of like some of them, and some of them are like, I can't even find myself using that. Like
Nah.
Rizz, and down bad. It's like I'm not 100% sure. I know what down bad means.
Damn.
I don't know about that.
I know
but
you would
Rizz,
know. Come on, don't play.
I know Rizz.
Nah, I don't even know what Rizz is or down bag. I just like,
we used
I heard
to
it
be
the other day, but I
risen
don't
back
know.
in the day.
Is it risen? Like
we was risen.
like
What does
Jesus?
it mean though? No,
You
but,
mean
yeah,
bunch
he
of
has
Jesus
risen.
Christ risen.
Pretty much it means
risen.
game. It means game.
This game. I heard.
You got
Yeah.
Rizz. Sounds like jizz. So I don't know if I like that.
Like charisma. So I heard it was like
You
short
got
for
good
charisma.
Rizz.
Oh, charisma. That makes sense
Charisma.
if it came off,
It was
playing
Rizz.
off charisma. That's actually kind of dope then. Charisma,
I
Rizz.
use
I get them. All right, youngsters,
now
I hear
it's
you.
dope.
Back then it was like mouthpiece. So you got some
Mouthpiece?
mouthpiece, got game.
Ooh.
Got
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I wonder where
I
that
don't know.
came from, man. Rizz. Where did that originate from?
He just told you, fool.
Where
Some
did it come
TikTok-
from?
Like I know whoever came up with it though. It's like
No, I'm
just,
talking about where did it come from? Like
I
West
think
Coast,
I heard it's
East
in New York.
Coast?
I heard New York people using it
Oh,
first.
okay,
man.
that makes sense. It's a Rizz. Okay,
I kind of like it.
yeah,
like
it makes
it.
sense when you understand it and know
I
where
wouldn't
comes
use
from.
it. I sound super old using it. Like, hey
Right,
son,
man.
you got that
Hey.
Rizz on the girl? Like,
What's up with
no.
that Rizz?
no, Dad.
But see, man, we
Moving
would
on.
know how to use it. We would know how to use it. You know what I'm saying?
Not the Rizz on the girl.
No Rizz on her.
Did you
You
Rizz on her,
certainly don't
son?
have Rizz,
Damn,
Dad.
you got that Rizz her. Huh? All right, do you, son?
Man, there's some good ones though. It's like I would be like, wow, you guys
Which-
came up with that.
We're just gonna change it. Did you give her that Rizza?
What was that?
No,
No,
what I
now it's
don't
just
like is
perverted.
like my son, like when they try to pull that bro on me. But I can understand. Like now I understand. When my dad used to always be
Yeah.
pissed when I called him man.
Yeah.
It's like, chill
Come
out,
on,
man,
man.
or like, man.
Yeah, come on, man.
I swear to
Come
God.
on, man.
Like if
man.
when my son goes, bruh, I'm like, I will take your shirt off the wrong way. You better call.
Man, matter of fact,
better
my
calm down.
Miles is saying that he goes, "Come
To
on,
bruh?
bruh." Yeah, he brought me
It's
the other day. I
so
was like,
bad.
"What? You gonna bruh me?"
Like,
He's like, "Yeah, but you
Every
brought me,
other
Dad."
sentence at the bruh. I'm like, man, what are you?
Oh no,
guys are
Just
crazy.
that. Man, where did you
No, press
get off
My
the
oldest-
YouTube?
Yeah.
My oldest is the greatest manong ever, so he don't be doing none of that shit.
Yeah.
He got Rizz.
He don't got no Rizz. He got no Rizz.
Wrist bits.
He don't need no Rizz. It's still early in
No.
life.
You gotta give him some Rizz, just a little bit.
Because I think I was too young trying to Rizz all day long. So
Charisma.
he's fine.
All right, check
Rizz
this out, fellas. We can run this for another hour, or I think we should kind of just mark the spot here. I do want to do something, and it's exactly what I was thinking when you had mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's like I do want to do some top fives and mix and match, because I think, you know, and I think it couldn't start. It shouldn't need to start with the basketball or anything like that or sports related, but I think it can be like relatable yet debatable. So I'm hoping we can maybe do just pretty quick top five next week.
Yeah.
Just prepare yourself, like a top five MCs, and we'd put like rappers or MCs. We'd put like qualifiers on it, and then we'll do that offline.
My MCs will be R&B singers with the slow
Yeah,
jams. Oh no,
my-
rap,
Yeah,
man.
H-Town.
Never
My
listen to
MCs
no
are
rap.
different too. Mine will be different too.
No, and it'd be nice. It'd be nice
Yeah.
to see, because right now it's like this. I want to see how the MCs that we were messing with back in the days aged along with us, and if they still qualify to be one of the best
Yeah,
ones here.
That's perfect.
So let's see
I
what's
like
up with
that.
that. So let's go ahead and let's timestamp this. Let's put the batteries back into the fire alarms. We'll see y'all next week.